Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our creative presentation. What we're going to talk about? Right, the Robert F. Kennedy High School and David King. You don't know who David King is? Uh-oh. Well, let's start from the beginning then. This is David King. He is the new principal of the Robert F. Kennedy High School in Great Ridge, Illinois. The school opened 2 years ago as a pilot project that includes a planned student body of one-third black, one-third white, and one-third Latino students. Also, the students were separated into 4 houses. Apparently, the house system encouraged competitiveness. Unfortunately, the structure proved not to be functional so far. When David King became principal, he was confronted with many issues at the high school. A Friday afternoon meeting ended with fighting, screaming, and life threats. Before he even arrived, students and teachers were assaulted and no one feels safe anymore. The former principal, Dr. Weiss, oh, by the way, in German that means white. Anyhow, Dr. Weiss, he was a figure of great capabilities, knowledge, and experience, but with little respect in the organization. The housemasters, Bertram Perkins, Frank Chespack, Chauncey Carver, and John Bonavota, have split up into 2 teams. Chauncey and Frank want to stop the administration to lock the doors of the school to help minimizing security issues. The other two don't really seem to care. It's so weird because there have been several incidents where teachers and students have been assaulted. So why not stop that? They're also against security guards. Instead, they let people be scared in school. Anyhow, well, several teachers have organized a movement against Bertram because they do not like his way of leading his house. They want him kicked out. Chauncey is somehow involved in everything. He seems a bit like the troublemaker. You cannot imagine what he did. He threatened Betsy Dooler, another colleague who is the head of the English department. You know what he said? "I'm gonna break your neck, you b****." Big surprise, Betsy was not happy about that. The vice principal, William Smith, is also a bit of a weirdo. He doesn't think David is ready for the job. It even seems like he would like to be principal. He has the reputation of being a tough disciplinarian, and some of the younger faculty really doesn't like him. However, David needs to watch out for him. Well, let's really get into it now. Our teacher told us to use the full frames. When she first said that, we thought she meant like round frame or oval or square, or like childish or grandma's frame for pictures. But then we learned she meant 4 frames in regards to organizational behavior. Well, that did make sense, sort of. Anyway, so we identified the issues and sorted them into the structural, political, HR, and symbolic frame.
We think the current organization comes closest to the matrix. I'm not sure why they call it matrix. Maybe because it's so complicated? The next problem is the house system. Dr. Weiss was apparently an expert on the innovative house system, which on paper seemed to be a good idea. For practical purposes, however, it proved unsuccessful and resulted him leaving the school. The house system comes from Great Britain, which can be seen in the Harry Potter books and movies. That is actually how David King came into the picture. He now has to clean up the mess. Regarding the house system, we think David should try to create an atmosphere in which the students can compete in a peaceful and aspiring environment. As mentioned, some teachers formed a movement against Perkins. It's not that they don't like him, actually they all do. He is also respected for all the work he does with the timetable scheduling. But, and now comes the but, he is somehow unable to lead his house, it seems. That even though students are assigned randomly into houses, his house has big absenteeism issues, discipline problems, and students are 3 times as likely to drop out completely. Another problem is the line of authority. Currently, everyone seems to be involved into everything, especially Chauncey. Really, if you look at it though, the housemasters are supposed to only have authority in their own houses. They all intervene at each other's houses, but no one accepts opinions. David is new to the school. He needs to make sure that they start accepting his opinion and listen to him, and do it fast. Who needs to report to whom? Who has actually what job? We need job descriptions with specific requirements and specifications, duties, reporting relationships, but most importantly, expectations of the organization. Part of this could be a code of conduct. You know, something that states to employees' behavior and commitment.
Alright, let's have a look. Dr. Weiss, the so-called genius when it comes to house systems, did not establish or require any level of authority, since he did not really get involved in problems but just left his stuff to the free market policy and flexible staffing policy. This just ruined his own work. Free market, doesn't that remind you of the open, wild jungle of Africa? Everybody for himself, or sometimes even in a pack. Away from that, our four housemasters argue all the time. They have completely different tactics, they manage the houses differently, and they have no common goals whatsoever. And then, when someone dares to put things on the table, they just ignore them. I mean, hello, ever heard of conflict resolution? Honestly, I did that like in 3rd year in HIM. They all seem to forget that their students also come from pretty troubled neighborhoods. All those different races working and studying together, it's not so easy, but instead of concentrating on the problems, they join in. This is not acceptable.
With the evident lack of common mission and vision of the headmasters. The employees of RF Kennedy High School do not resemble a team, but a group of people bound by their job in the school. Some of them just seem to hate it there. Just listen to this. Counting how many times David was threatened in the first week of his job, we came up with like 5 times in 1 week. That's unbelievable. A further problem is the percentage of races among the teachers. While the student body consists equally of black, white and Latino students, the staff has no Latinos at all. This is upsetting for the students and their parents. However, so far nothing has been done about this. The school has so far not paid a lot of attention to the needs of their students and staff. In fact, a simple way to explain the needs is the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Currently, the focus of the school has not been on safety and security, 2 issues highly needed by people. Instead, people have been trying to demonstrate power and push their opinions. In the future, David needs to focus on the basic needs and secure his new working place in a way that students and staff do not have to be scared about external attacks or internal threats and offenses.
We consider one of the most important issues the incomplete identity of the high school. We can relate to this matter the fact that staff and students do not have a complete picture of the values, mission, vision, and standards of the organization they work for, which is one of the reasons for the lack of respect as well as motivation to work towards a common goal. I mean, look at this. They don't even have a logo. Which American high school doesn't have a logo? This needs to be fixed quickly. We thought we could help and we created 2. One is a traditional version, while the other shows a lion that could represent the strength of the school and their students. Since David has received a Bachelor of Education in English and PE, he should know the importance of logos and mascots for a sports team. So, this could be one way of bonding his school and students to one common goal. And then there is the name, Robert F. Kennedy High School. Robert Francis Bobby Kennedy was the younger brother of former American President John F. Kennedy. He was a Democratic American politician and civil rights activist. Kennedy began campaigning for the presidency in 1968. He was assassinated after a speech at the Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles, and died on June 5, 1968. The shooter later said that he felt betrayed by Kennedy's support for Israel in June 1967 during the Six-Day War, which had begun on the day 1 year before the assassination. We researched a little bit and found an existing complex of Robert F. Kennedy High School that has been built at the site of the former Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. I mean, there we go. That shows the clear affinity that the school has to the figure and how they are trying to honor the work of the man by adopting a social justice theme. In our case, however, we could not find any clue why the school chose this name. Ensuring that staff and students know about the history is another chance for David to tie bonds and shape a common interest and goal. In our heads, the school consists of a centralized main building, surrounded symmetrically by the 4 house buildings. Since the houses are not only separated by different teachers and students that do not interact with each other, but also the physical configuration pictures the separation. Oh, and by the way, who calls a house A or B or C? They don't even have a name. We are proposing that the students and staff of each house should work together in order to find a name and mascot that identifies them. What about Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin? Quite simply, the school is missing an identity, has failed to create traditions, and lacks a statement of principles such as values or a code of ethics.